We're back for another edition of the Twin Cities Real Estate Pros podcast. You can check us out on our website, twincitiesrealestatepros.com. Also on YouTube, imperialhometeam.tv. My name is Ron Johnson, licensed real estate agent with RE/MAX Advantage Plus, joined as always by David Nelson, also licensed with RE/MAX Advantage Plus. Josh Atkinson is here as well. He is with Smartzip. So we're going to give back a little bit, David, today, changing things a little bit. We're actually going to give information that's valuable to real estate agents. So we'll talk a little bit about what Smartzip is and what Josh has to offer as well. So that's great of you to bring Josh in to give back to your competition.
You know, I do what I can.
Right.
You know, and it's probably, I'm maybe kind of feeling sorry for everybody listening to my voice. It sounds like I've inhaled helium and frogs and everything else. So for those that are listening, I apologize up front if I start coughing, whatever. But that's it.
Okay.
That's my disclosure right now.
All right, well, we'll use up your voice a little more, and you've got some pre-lists you want to talk about coming up.
Correct. I still got the one that we're pre-listing in Egan. It's on 4271 Suncliff Road. 3 bedrooms, 2 bath. We've been on Zillow now for about a week. We've already had 3 people wanting to show it. So just a heads up, the homeowners don't want to have any showings until after April 12th. Just putting it out there right now. Anyone listening and watching, April 12th, they want to hold off because they're meeting with our stager. And just kind of wrapping up some of the painting, some of the updating they're doing. And they've got 2 young kids, so they want to have the house show ready by that time. And then I've also got one coming on the end of this month, which is April or the 1st of May. It's in Lakeville. It's a 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom house on over a half an acre. It's a private yard. It's got a wetlands in the background.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Currently, the homeowners are replacing a lot of the carpet, and they're freshening up the paint and doing some of the general lighting fixtures, some of the hardware, updating all that. And that's a little under 4,000 square feet. And we're pricing that one about the mid to upper 400s, kind of depending on, you know, how the house turns out and how the market is. And again, that's coming out in Lakeville probably end of this month or 1st of April.
Yeah, it's funny that you bring up your sellers not wanting showings so early. And it's kind of happening, right? Because we're talking about, okay, it's such a tight market. You got to get things pre-listed. There's a ton of buyers out there. And you're telling your sellers, hey, you know what? We can get you buyers before we hit the market. Now all of a sudden you're getting too many interested parties.
Yeah.
And your house isn't even quite ready. So it's such a weird. Each week it seems like just such a weird dynamic with how the market's going.
And literally every day, get an email or a call from an agent or even a buyer online that says, hey, I'm wondering if we can look at this property in 5 minutes or in an hour. I'm like, well, no, it's not really for sale yet and stuff like that. And it's because there's such a shortage of homes for sale that these homes that are coming on, these buyers want to get in before anybody else does and maybe alleviate any sort of competition. So again, if these houses are pre-listed, they're still getting attention, a lot of attention.
And they can see those on your Zillow page, and where else can they find them?
Correct. They're going to be on our team Zillow page or under the coming soons. And there'll be a link on the video as well to go there. Also, the video will have postings of the actual listings that are coming up for sale. But if you want to contact me directly, 612-986-4670. Usually texting is the best for me. And then also email at david@imperialhometeam.com.
Okay, and then TwinCitiesRealEstatePros.com. You can find us there as well. A couple things I've got going on. They're, I guess, pre-lists. So we don't have all the paperwork done yet, so I can't get too specific. But I had a buyer who's also a seller who was able to get a home purchased last week. So they're going to be putting their townhome on the market. It's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a split-level townhome. It's technically, the postal address is Rosemont. They pay their city municipal bills to Lakeville, and Apple Valley's across the street. So if you kind of know exactly where that little area is right there, that'll be coming on the market 150-ish, and probably in May we'll have that one coming up. And then I've got a twin home in Chanhassen, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms as well. That one's probably going to come up here in the next couple of weeks. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, as I mentioned. Original owners, but they've maintained it pretty well. And it's going to be a pretty inexpensive price range to get into Chanhassen for. There's a nice little community there of I guess older, meaning like 1980s built homes that you can now afford in Chanhassen with the way the market is going over there. So looking forward to that. And just quickly, I want to share a story about a buyer situation I had last week. We had been working with these buyers for a couple of years. They've been kind of passively looking, and we'd go out and look at a couple places, and they weren't ready to do anything. And now they finally got serious because of some situations that they had where they needed to buy. And we went out and we found a house. They liked it. We were the first offer on the table. We went and saw the house. We drove to Caribou around the corner, wrote up the offer right on my tablet, got it in as soon as we could. And as we're writing the offer, the listing agent calls. I called the listing agent and said, hey, we're putting in an offer. She called and said, hey, we've got another one coming. I said, okay. So we wrote a pretty strong offer. Then she called like the next day and said, hey, we've got multiple offers, highest and best due on Friday. So we adjusted our offer. Buyers wrote a letter. And the buyers are both military veterans. The wife is a combat veteran from Afghanistan.
Wow.
And her husband is also a veteran who was, and I apologize if I don't know all the technical terms from the military side of it, but he was in Iraq, but not during combat. And then he was, I believe, in another part of the world as well. So anyway, they wrote a letter, and the listing agent called, and she said, hey, look, your offer is not the strongest financially, but because of the letter that you wrote, and they appreciate your clients being veterans, we're going to give you the house, or give it to them for,
for whatever the
hundreds
price
of
is.
thousands of dollars. But so it was a really cool story to hear, and you take her at her word that that's really what her clients were saying.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of a cool story that my buyers were willing to share who they were, young family, both military veterans, and they got their offer picked because of their story. So.
And that, being a homeowner ourselves, you look at is when you're selling your property, I don't think anybody wants their cherished home to be turned into a rental property.
Yeah.
So when someone comes in and writes a nice letter, and I've had the same incident before too. One of our listings, a couple wrote a nice letter. They were moving from out of state, coming here. They had 3 young girls. They wanted to raise their kids in the yard, all these wonderful things. The sellers loved it because it mirrored what they'd started their house back in the 80s. And, it made the whole transition of them selling their house after 30 years to a young couple very similar to where they were at back in the 80s. It was a great story, but the homeowners just felt like their house is being taken care of.
Sure.
It's not going to be trashed. It's going to be, the legacy will live on with another family.
Yeah. So yeah, it's good to see not everybody's just always after the dollar, but some other important things there as well.
Sure.
Yeah. But we're real estate agents, so we're after the dollar, right? Yeah. And that's why we have Josh Atkinson here. He's with Smartzip, and he's going to explain to us exactly what Smartzip is and really how that can benefit the real estate agents.
Absolutely. And thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate the opportunity. And actually, to kind of follow at the tail end of what you were talking about, we just relocated to Minnesota here from the Bay Area almost exactly a year ago. And you talk about the competitive atmosphere of writing offers and hoping to get that house you want. We were at a disadvantage. We couldn't even be here, but we wrote a letter as well to the folks that we bought our house from, and kind of as circumstance had it, they wanted to do a buyback and rent, but we needed the house, so we couldn't do that. But we wrote a letter of kind of who we were and coming out. They ended up renting the house next door to us for the first 3 months we lived in our new house, and our kids actually became friends.
Oh, wow.
We have barbecues together at the houses now, and they actually became our first Minnesota friends. So it is impactful when you write that letter. I can vouch for that personally.
Wow.
But I digress, as to who Smartzip is and kind of what we do.
Who is Smartzip?
Right. The best way for me to explain what we do is to kind of just explain what we believe. And what we believe is that the best way to capture a listing in this market is to establish a relationship with a homeowner before your competition does, right? In order to do that, and the reason we believe that is one of NAR statistics, that about 72% of people that list their home list with the first agent they talk to. Regardless of skill, reputation, or even experience. And so what we offer is the ability to identify the homeowners in your market that are most likely to list through predictive analytics. So it's kind of a buzzword out there right now, predictive analytics. If you've seen the movie Moneyball, or if you're a sports fan at all, it's being used everywhere, from predictive text to predictive searches online. We use it for real estate. So what we do is we essentially look at the attributes of a home, the house, the people living in the home, as well as the neighborhoods, and identify which properties are going to sell first. We deliver that data to the agents we work with, and we put them in the position to go and earn that business, build that relationship with those homeowners before the competition even knows they're coming. And with today's market being what it is, that's the name of the game. If you can position yourself in front of that consumer before your competition does, you're going to be the one to get the business. And it almost doesn't even matter how long you've been doing it or how good you are.
So real high level, there's a neighborhood, on average people live there for 5 to 7 years. So somebody's coming up on 4.5 years, 5 years. then that's who you start targeting with your marketing.
Could be one of like I said, 2,000 attribute points. Maybe they've got kids. We'll look at are those kids closer to going to kindergarten or to college? Because that might make a difference. Are they going to be empty nesters? Or are they going to be in the school districts for a while? And then we'll look at the school districts. How are they? Are people wanting to move into those or move out of them? So we, again, look at a broad range of attribute points and then kind of use aggregators to make sure that we're looking at a neighborhood for why people move in or out of that neighborhood. So Plymouth, we would look at different than Stillwater, right? We'd look at Maple Grove different than we would look where we're sitting here in Lakeville. Because what's going to make someone move in one area, it's going to be different than what prompts someone to move in another. So by doing that, again, we're able to identify the triggers in that area for the agent. You may not know exactly why they rank number one on your list, but the point is that they're there. You know they have a high likelihood to list. The idea is go out and start a conversation, build that relationship with them.
And then, David, you've used the system with some success.
Not just using. Currently, yes. And I've actually met Josh almost a year ago. Mm-hmm. And we set up, and I have been using Smartzip for almost a year myself, and I'm actually a big proponent of it. That's one of the reasons why I brought Josh on board today, is I just see it's a valuable tool for agents in general that, as we all know, listings are really the big source of our income. When you do a listing, you get to advertise it, you get to market it, you get to put your face on the business cards, blah, blah, blah. So with Smartzip, it allows us the opportunity to kind of get our brand, our face, our name in front of potential sellers in a more of a rifle way, instead of a shotgun approach. We can always do a shotgun marketing approach, but with Smartzip, I found it's more of a rifle or a laser, because it kind of pinpoints, like Josh was saying, the ones that are most likely to be selling in the near future. So with myself, is I've potentially now, actually this one in Lakeville I just talked about, that came through Smartzip itself. And, they reached out to me via the postcard. I stopped by their house, dropped off some marketing material, dropped off our book, and within a few days they wanted to meet with me, and now they're under contract and they're going to be selling their house, and they're extremely happy. And again, Smartzip is really, really great service.
And you can do partnerships with other vendors as well with Smartzip?
You can. I mean, I've set up partnerships with loan companies, title companies. Of course, you always want to make sure it's compliant and is okay. But absolutely, and you can partner with other agents. There's teams that are doing it where we can do dual branding, where you can have kind of a team effort as far as who's prospecting, who's doing the follow up. Lots of different options, lots of different ways that you can set it up, and it really again just comes down to what are you doing on a consistent basis to prospect for new listings. This is a way to do it smarter. It's kind of the name.
That's
of
a good
firm,
name,
right?
Yeah, that makes sense. That's called Smart.
We had a think tank come up with that for us. Yeah. So like I said, the main point is making the data actionable. And the idea is, agents aren't typically data geeks. I mean, they're not guys that want to sit behind the computer and figure a bunch of stuff out with marketing and data. They want to talk to people, right? And that's typically why agents get in the business. Well, all of those things that you do as an agent, how much more effective are they going to be if you're talking to the right people at the right time? And that's what the core part of the program is just giving you the ability to do what you do every day, but in a laser-focused fashion, in a much more concise way.
Okay, Josh Atkinson is our guest. He is with Smartzip. Let us know a little bit more about how, if agents are out there listening and they want to get a hold of you, is there a website? How can they find out more information about it? Where can they do those things?
They can go to smartzip.com. They can see our product video there, as well as they can give me a call, 612-486-2147. But they can also sign up and check their territory availability on the website, and that'll come to me, and I'll follow up with them as well.
And Smartzip, so you moved here from California, so it's a national company. You own the market here.
I am the Minnesota guy.
Okay.
So if it comes through Minnesota, it comes through me.
Welcome.
Yeah. This is the life I've chosen.
So now, in this market, and we didn't tell you we were going to talk to you about this, so I apologize if I'm throwing you this. But we have your snowbirds here. Somebody who maybe owns a house here in Minnesota, and owns one in either Southern California, Arizona, Florida, something like that. So if you're an agent here who has that niche in the market, you could use that in the Twin Cities suburbs and also in Arizona?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, depending on how you want to set it up, you can own a farm. I have some agents that will own a farm in Minnesota, and Arizona is one, and then Florida. A lot of folks I know have, they spend time in Florida. So they'll have a farm in both places. The other thing is when you talk about the homeowners having those vacation homes, when we're doing the targeting, we'll pick up that. So we'll actually be able to identify an absentee owner. A lot of the marketing, because we're going for listings, will still go to that absentee owner, whether they live in Minnesota or spend their time elsewhere. Wherever the owner of record is, we'll go after them.
And so if somebody wants to get set up, do they just have a conversation with you, go through what zip codes they want? Because, we all get calls from everybody that says, hey, we're selling, do you sell homes in this city? I'm like, no, I've never ever sold a home in that city, right? Because they found you on a list, and they start asking all these questions, and they want you to buy it right away.
Right.
What's the approach, and what kind of education do you give your clients?
And that's what I do is typically try and educate on the power of predictive analytics, big data. When it comes to how you would set something like this up, first off, we would go onto a map. Actually, we've got an interactive map where you can literally go street by street and carve out those particular sections of town that you want to farm and you want to market to. We'll actually run some preliminary analytics to make sure that the data is strong enough. We don't want to set anybody up if we can't guarantee a statistical advantage when it comes to the turnover rate and the median home value. From there, it's just a matter of the marketing is a la carte. So the core part of the program is the data and the identification of the prospects. The marketing that you can choose to do, you can do as much or as little of as you like, as David can attest as well. And that covers a range of online components via Facebook and web advertising versus as well as direct mail pieces with postcard and digital handwritten letters.
And I don't want you to run down your pricing sheet, but I'm assuming just like most other vendors, one zip code is going to cost more or less than another zip code.
Cost is based primarily on the number of homes, the level of marketing, median home value for the overall territory comes into play somewhat, but we're pretty fortunate in Minnesota. We kind of hit that nice, most territories will range in that, say mid 200s to mid 300s range, maybe obviously higher in some of the nicer parts of town. But you have some coastal areas where you've got median home values that are million plus. Typically we don't run into that out here. So pricing is actually kind of somewhere in the middle.
And now, David, you mentioned some success you had there with the listing that you got. What are you? Because one of our challenges, every challenge as a real estate agent, is we can get leads from all sorts of different sources, right? Some of them are going to be better, some of them are going to be garbage, or somewhere in between. What has your experience been so far with the leads that you've gotten from Smartzip?
Well, in Smartzip, it is a farming system. As an agent, very rarely your first mailer goes out and you're going to get everybody to contact you. Right. And that's what so many new agents think, I'm going to send a postcard out and everyone's going to respond. No. Farming typically takes a year. Well, if you're anything like us on the team, is like, okay, we'll take that year, cut it in half, and cut it in half again. So we're looking at 3 months. Our goal is how can we get business in that first 3 months? So one of the things that we'll do is, when the Smartzip goes out, postcards go out, I can tell when my postcards have been mailed, as I'll get a lot more activity online. I get notified whenever somebody goes on, logs in, and they put in their specific code that brings in for their own property. So they put their code in, it tells me who they are, where their address was, and kind of what time of the day they signed up on. So that's great information, and if you have a Maserati but no fuel in it, you just have a worthless piece of metal. Same thing with Smartzip. Smartzip is a Maserati, but if you don't put any fuel into it and don't have a driver's license, it's useless. Nothing against Smartzip, but any sort of tool you have is useless unless you put the extra effort into it. So the things that I'll do with Smartzip is once someone signs up online, we get their address, and even if they don't put their email or phone number, I have their address. So within 24 hours, I'll stop by their house, and I have this lovely absolute guide to selling your home. We put that in a folder. I put a marketing analysis of their specific property. And it's not so much a CMA because that's kind of vague. It's more of a detailed market analysis about their house, about the neighborhood, about the city, where the demographics going. And then also personally, I put in, here's a little gratuitous plug. I wrote a book.
That's what we're here for.
Only for me. Thank you. Pat in the back. So I put my book in as well on how to sell your house. So you drop it off to the homeowner, and you're pretty much saying, hey, I'm not having you asking me to do my job. I'm going to show up. Here's some information that would benefit you. And you know what? If they want to take it, great. If not, awesome. But what happens is they get this information. You're giving them something that they can't get online. But it's giving them, we spend time. We're the local experts. We're real estate agents. We have access to information that not everybody can have. So we're giving this to the sellers. And so these Smartzip clients are starting to appreciate there's actually a follow-up coming through. They're getting information that they can't get anywhere else. And you know what? They may not be looking to sell now, but we've planted a seed with them that, hey, you know what? We're in business. We're serious. We're professional. And I'm going to stay in touch with you. It isn't a one drop and leave. I'm going to follow up every month, maybe an email, maybe a visit, maybe a call, video, whatever. But you're going to be the go-to person for that homeowner for the rest of their life, potentially.
Yeah, and that's the goal. So it's on average, people do 7 to 8 transactions through their life, I think is the number somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, and that's a really low number as far as who uses a real estate agent the second time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the biggest downfall of real estate agents is just staying in touch. Yeah. There's so many transactional real estate agents out there. They do a deal as soon as the closing's done. The agent is so happy to get their commission check, they forgot the person's name, where they live, and then they're on to the next deal. Whereas a system like Smartzip, just with what we do with our company, is we're not just here to be a transactional team. We're here to, even if not here looking to sell for years, we want to be the ones that if you're going to ask questions about local resources, a carpet cleaner, tile repair, lenders, whatever you want, anything, we're going to be the go-to people, the liaisons, and that's Smartzip helps you set up to be as a local expert, and then it's our job to take it to the next 30 levels beyond that.
Yeah. This is the Twin Cities Real Estate Pros podcast. I'm Ron Johnson with RE/MAX Advantage Plus. David Nelson is here also with RE/MAX Advantage Plus, and Josh Atkinson is our guest from Smartzip. I want to, if we can, get back into your transition from California to Minnesota, and you're obviously someone who not only with Smartzip but is pretty deep into the real estate world. Yep. Just kind of give us some. There's obviously major differences from where you were coming from to Minnesota, right. But as somebody with actual personal knowledge of that, can you go over that a little bit?
Well, I think relocation is always difficult depending on maybe how far you're going and how ingrained you were from where you were coming from. Relocating halfway across the country from one of the nicest climates in the world to Minnesota, which
the second nicest climate.
The second nicest climate, yeah. That was a difficult sell for the family.
And you brought your wife here in February.
Brought the wife here in February, 6 months pregnant. Yeah, that was our last couple's getaway before the baby came. And we got to go see Scenic Brainerd and Baxter. We actually went up there for a CRS event, and it was actually on our way up there that we drove through the Albertville St. Michael area, and ended up with an agent that I know showed us a few homes and whatnot. We liked the schools, and again was just more of a hey, wouldn't it be neat to move to Minnesota kind of a thing. Well, the housing market in the Bay Area is completely out of control again. I mean, it's people are getting priced out left and right. You can't almost afford to rent there anymore, and that was kind of the situation we were in. And so that process of, okay, well, I know I have work in Minnesota. I've been
because
there.
This was your account.
This is my territory, correct? Yeah. And the thing is that I've treated it more than just a business. I've built relationships, just like how agents build relationships with homeowners. My biggest thing was building those relationships with my clients, from taking them door knocking to setting up, different, like if they want to do a food drive in the community or whatever. I've offered my services to go out there and be an extra body for them. But the move, obviously being as stressful as it was, you got to look at homes. You got to submit all kinds of paperwork. You got to, view a house, right? And I was lucky enough, the agent that helped me actually went out with an iPod and did kind of a virtual walkthrough. But we essentially bought our house sight unseen. Put in an offer, and it was accepted, thankfully. And we did a mobile closing I was telling you about, literally so hectic. We had movers coming in and out, taking things to the truck, and the notary is sitting in my living room, and we're basically on a cardboard box signing the documents, to move out. And then packed up the troops and drove across country, but that was pretty awesome. Got to see Mount Rushmore and Sioux Falls or Rapid City, South Dakota. So some real scenic spots on the way out here to Minnesota. But it was an amazing process, and now I really understand why you have actual folks that are relocation specialists. Simply because if you're coming from even out of town, that can be a challenge, let alone if you're coming across the country or out of state. So hectic process, but we've been real happy, and my kids aren't used to snow, and so it was a novelty this year. We'll see how they like it next year when we get probably a real winter coming through.
So. Expect it.
Yeah. Buying a house sight unseen is crazy because I don't know if you've ever run into you have a buyer, they love the house, but grandma has to come see it, and she's not available until 2 days later. And then their friend who just bought a house has to come see it, and then by the time it's sold. So if he can buy a house sight unseen, and a buyer walks into a house, they don't need their whole family to come see it.
No, and not just from a different city, from a different state across, pretty much the whole entire country.
Yeah.
Well, I guess a late welcome to Minnesota, but we appreciate you joining us here on the show.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's wonderful to be here, and like I said, we're really digging the Minnesota nice. But it's funny because we found out Minnesota nice only goes so far. Folks will give you the shirt off their back. They just won't give you the address on where you can return it.
There you go.
But folks have been real welcoming, and it's been a really, really fun trip so far.
And real quick, the website, Josh.
Smartzip.com.
Okay.
Yeah, smartzip.com. Check out a product video, and you can also plug in a zip code and check the availability of your territory.
All right, David, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about pricing and kind of what the market is doing right now.
Correct. Yeah, and just to touch base quickly, too, I'm sure one of the hardest things for Josh to move here, he's a huge Raiders fan.
Oh. Well, good, because they're moving anyway, eventually anyway. Aren't they going to Vegas or somewhere?
As long as they're still the Raiders, I'll be a fan.
Okay.
Yeah, so how many games are you able to watch here?
I was actually surprised. First, they came for preseason, so I actually got to go to TCF Bank Stadium and I got to see him play. We lost, of course, but that was fun. And then I was actually amazed. There was probably a half a dozen games that were on the TV stations up here, so I saw quite a few of them. And of course, you get the app, so I can listen to them there. But
that internet is pretty neat.
The internet's, yep. I love the Googles.
What's it going to happen next? And I also heard that you met Darth Vader.
I did, a couple times.
I had to kind of sneak that in there.
Because this is the Imperial home team.
Well, and
Raiders Vaders.
I was going to say, if you know anything about the Raiders, or if you've ever seen any of the pictures from some of the games, you know that we have a few resident Darth Vaders out there. So that was actually, I remember my son was a little hesitant, but my daughter, she's a diehard Raider girl, and she dove right in, and she loved seeing Vader. So.
Yeah, it was a good time.
It was fun. And the wife actually, that's how she knows you too. And so she was
Lord of the dark side.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Could be better ways, I guess. But
so you can talk about pricing, or we got 2 minutes. So you can talk about pricing.
Okay.
Or,
now we're gonna talk a little bit about
Star Wars.
Star Wars will go all day.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if you heard last thing about Star Wars. The voice for Admiral Akbar passed away yesterday.
Oh.
Should we have
it's a trap.
Silence, or?
Yeah, that's okay. Anyways. So homeowners, we get these emails a lot. They go online, these instant home valuations. They want to get their property valued, and they go to these instant sites. They're not horrible, but they're not really accurate. Same thing with like a Zestimate. So if you want a true market value, what's going to be happening on the market today, you really need to contact a real estate agent such as us. We're going to go through, and we're not going to give you a shot in the dark price. We're going to go look at what's for sale. We're actually going to visit your house. We will have to come into your house, FYI. It isn't an instant.
As Darth Vader?
Per request.
Okay.
Yes. We have to talk to you. So, if you want a real home valuation, you got to contact us. And when you do, we'll give you a free absolute guide to selling your house. It's going to kind of break down the process of what to expect from us, the team, everything else. But also, you're going to get a market valuation that's going to be based on what's happening in today's market. So you can contact us through TwinCitiesRealEstatePros.com, or if you just want to do something simple, go to bestmnagents.com. There's a little video, there's a sign-up form that can work just as slick too.
Okay. And really the same thing, not just for the sellers, but if you also want to buy a home, eventually, unless you're just going to do all the paperwork yourself, you need to talk to a real estate agent as well.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you know, Ron, we do that for free.
Yeah.
For buyers. So why not?
Yeah. So if you want to get into a house and look at it, because you should see it in person and not just online. So
That's crazy.
we're going to call you too when you sign up and put your email address and phone number on the website.
We will call you.
All right. Well, Josh, we appreciate you joining us.